The moment I heard the screech of Karen's voice through the trees, I knew my peaceful weekend was toast. "This eyesore is a disgrace to our community," she bellowed, her words slicing through the quiet of my off-grid cabin like a chainsaw. I'd moved out here to escape her kind, but apparently, even the middle of nowhere wasn't far enough. I'm Jake, a 34-year-old carpenter who traded city life for a patch of land in the Pacific Northwest, where the only neighbors are pine trees and the occasional curious deer. My cabin, built by hand with reclaimed wood, is my sanctuary. No HOA, no rule, just freedom. Or so I thought. The nearest town, Willow Creek, is a 20-minute drive, and its HOA, led by the infamous Karen Whitaker, had no jurisdiction over my land. Yet, Karen, with her manicured nails and a vendetta against anything unkempt, decided my cabin was her personal crusade. She'd been hounding me for months, leaving passive-aggressive notes about my unsightly compost bin and rogue wildflower garden, claiming they lowered property values miles away. I ignored her. Big mistake. It started innocently enough. Last spring, Karen mailed me a friendly reminder to beautify my property. I tossed it in the fire. Then came the emails, the voicemails, and one unhinged visit where she stood at my property line, yelling about community standards. I figured she'd give up. She didn't. Instead, she escalated, and I underestimated just how far her obsession would go. My mistake was thinking a woman like Karen, armed with a clipboard and a superiority complex, would respect boundaries. Spoiler alert, she didn't. The trouble kicked into high gear one crisp October morning. I was splitting firewood when my phone pinged with a silent alert from my motion sensors, ones I'd installed after Karen's last visit. The app showed movement near the cabin's front porch. I assumed it was a raccoon rummaging through my compost again, so I grabbed my axe and headed back, expecting to shoo away a furry bandit. Instead, I saw Karen's red SUV parked crookedly at the edge of my property, her license plate screaming KRN4EVR. My stomach dropped. I crept closer, staying low behind a cluster of ferns. Karen was on my porch, poking around my flower pots with a gloved hand, muttering to herself, "Disgusting. This is why we need oversight," she hissed, kicking over a pot of marigolds. Dirt spilled across the wood I'd spent weeks sanding. My blood boiled, but I stayed quiet, watching her rummage through my stuff like she owned the place. She didn't know about the cameras I'd hidden in the eaves or the silent alarms wired to my phone and the local sheriff's office. The absurdity hit me like a freight train. This woman, who lived in a gated McMansion 10 miles away, had driven out here to snoop on private land. For what, to enforce her HOA's rules on a cabin that wasn't even in her jurisdiction? I wanted to storm out and tell her to get lost. But something told me to wait. Karen was about to dig her own grave, and I had a front row seat. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. As Karen yanked open my compost bin, spilling vegetable scraps across the porch, a new figure emerged from the tree line. Old Man Tucker, my nearest neighbor, a grizzled Vietnam vet who lived a mile down the dirt road. Tucker, who usually kept to himself, was carrying a flashlight and a thermos, his face a mix of confusion and irritation. "What in the Sam Hill are you doing on Jake's land?" he barked, his voice gravelly but firm. Karen froze, clutching a rotten tomato like it was evidence in a murder trial. "This property is a blight," she snapped, waving the tomato at Tucker. "I'm documenting violations for the HOA." Tucker's eyes narrowed. "Lady, this ain't your turf. You're trespassing." I stifled a laugh from my hiding spot. Tucker, who'd once told me he didn't trust nobody with too many teeth, was about to become my unexpected ally. The situation spiraled fast. Karen, undeterred, doubled down, ranting about property values and community pride, while Tucker stood his ground, his flashlight beam pinning her like a spotlight. She started recording on her phone, shouting, "I'm being harassed," a classic Karen move. That's when she made her fatal mistake. In her frenzy, she grabbed a shovel leaning against my cabin and swung it at the compost bin, intending to clean up the mess she'd made. Instead, she misjudged her swing, and the shovel smashed through my porch railing, splintering the wood I'd carved by hand. The motion alarms blared to life, red lights flashing from the eaves. Karen yelped, dropping the shovel, her face a mask of panic. My phone buzzed again, sheriff's dispatch confirming they were en route. I stepped out from the ferns, my axe still in hand, not to threaten but because I'd forgotten to set it down. Karen, I said, voice calm but sharp, you've got about 5 minutes to explain why you're wrecking my home before the cops get here. Her eyes widened, darting between me, Tucker, and the flashing alarms. This is a misunderstanding, she stammered, backing away, but the damage was done. The porch was a disaster, broken pots, spilled compost, and a shattered railing. Tucker, now grinning, pulled out his own phone and started recording. Smile, ma'am. You're going viral. The high point came when Karen, cornered and desperate, tried to bolt for her SUV. She didn't see the roots sticking out of the ground. In slow motion, she tripped, her clipboard flying, landing face first in a pile of compost. Tucker howled with laughter, and I couldn't help but smirk. The woman who'd spent months harassing me was now covered in potato peels and coffee grounds, her pristine white blouse ruined. The alarms kept blaring, a fitting soundtrack to her downfall. Sheriff Daniels arrived minutes later, his cruiser kicking up dust. He was a no-nonsense guy who'd dealt with Karen's complaints before. Ma'am, you're on private property, he said, eyeing the mess. Karen, still picking dirt off her face, tried to spin a story about protecting the community. Daniels wasn't buying it. My cameras had caught everything: her trespassing, her vandalism, and her epic faceplant. Tucker, still filming, chimed in. Got it all right here. Sheriff, she's a regular action star. The aftermath was sweeter than I could have imagined. Karen was charged with trespassing and vandalism. Her HOA crusade exposed as a power trip gone wrong. The footage Tucker posted online spread like wildfire, racking up thousands of views in hours. Comments poured in, calling her compost Karen and turning her meltdown into a meme. The HOA board, embarrassed by the publicity, issued a public apology, distancing themselves from her overzealous actions. Rumor has it, Karen's neighbors started ignoring her at meetings, and her KRN4 EVR license plate mysteriously vanished from her SUV. I rebuilt my porch railing, this time carving a small raccoon into the wood as a nod to the critter I'd originally blamed for the alarm. Tucker became a regular visitor, bringing his thermos of coffee and stories about the good old days. My cabin, once just a refuge, now felt like a fortress, protected by cameras, alarms, and the kind of neighbors who show up when it counts. Karen's downfall wasn't just about her losing face. It was a reminder that boundaries matter, and no amount of self-righteous fury gives you the right to invade someone's peace. I learned my lesson, to never underestimate a Karen with a clipboard. Next time, I'm adding electric fences. What do you think ever had a run-in with a Karen who pushed too far? Share your story below. I'm all ears.